Are you tired of hearing people complain about the world and ready to own the responsibility to make the world a better place? Hey, my name is Brent Simpson, and welcome to this episode of Creating the Future. I believe that within each of us is a yearning to make the world a better place. So let's work together and make that desire a reality. My hope is that today's conversation inspires you as you endeavor to create the future. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Creating the Future. Super excited for the conversation we get to bring you today. When we talk about creating the future, so much of it really revolves around controlling a narrative or telling a story. It's been said that he who tells the best story wins, or he who controls the narrative wins. Storytelling is so important with so many things, vision casting and teaching people. And storytelling is just essential to creating the future. And today on the podcast, we get to have Bob Rose with us, who is a documentary maker. He's made several here recently. Very interesting podcast. You're going to get to hear his story of how he got involved, what his creative process is, things he's learned along the way. And I hope that all of us can become better storytellers. And so without further ado, we want to turn it over to conversation with Bob. But leading into that, let's hear a quick clip from Instaband, one of his most recent documentaries.
For sure. I don't really think anybody knows what they're doing. You can have conversations with label executives and they're still just like, oh, we're just trying to find the next big thing. Nobody knows what that is.
Streaming has reshaped the music industry. It's also been a major catalyst for growth.
Streaming is the only part of the music industry seeing revenue growth.
It used to be hard to make sure your CDs are in distribution and all that. Now, you could put a song out and it could be streamed 60 million times.
We all know what that is. It's Spotify, it's Apple Music, it's iTunes, it's Pandora, it's all these things.
Hey guys, I'm so excited to be with you, and an amazing guest today, Bob Rose, who is a film documentary maker and just has a really cool story. I've known Bob for a little while through our church and his family a little bit, and just want to kind of open up the conversation with Bob by just talking about, first of all, how did you even get into this filmmaking industry? It's not like something that everybody's in. I mean, that's pretty unusual.
Yeah, so filmmaking or working with cameras was something that, in retrospect, I saw I was always around. I mean, I was very early VHS kid, so in sixth grade, I did my first video through school. And I noticed I would do, anytime I could do a video project for school, I would do that. Yeah. And that was just kind of like a hobby. But really, it clicked for me in college. I was halfway through college and totally almost failing out because I was just trying to take things that I thought would make money versus things that I was passionate about. I was the first kid in my family that went to college. So I didn't equate passion with job. I equated college makes money. What can I do to make money? Right. So I'm not using my back. So anyhow, it was actually on my time off that I got a camera at a pawn shop and made my first little cheesy like horror movie or something with my little sister. And my mom said, hey, you should take that in school. And I was like, whoa, light went off. Yeah. Back to school, straight A's from there on out. And it's all, the passion for that it's not dipped at all. I mean, recently, I'm 24 years into my career. And this recent movie making stuff I'm doing has made my passion bigger than ever.
Yeah, that's awesome. When you started out, was that VHS like when you were in college, or was it digital already?
Oh, no. So yeah, the VHS stuff was like, well, VHS stuck around for a while, but my first cameras was those big ones. And I remember the early stuff, you had to actually have it plugged into like a TV to even use it. So I was right there from the beginning. My mom got one of those cameras right when I started high school. And that was the first time I had access to one all the time. So I was totally that kid that runs around and commentates on everything he shoots and is trying to be funny. And I just loved it. Me and my brother, we grew up a lot on television because my mom was a single parent. So taking this career path was a way to justify all those hours and hours and hours I spent in front of the television.
Yeah, that's funny. When being in ministry for so long, and especially youth pastor early on, we had VHS cameras and we would make little movies and little silly things for the youth ministry. And it was literally like, all right, pause it, everybody get in a new spot,
Yeah.
record, pause. I mean, until it went digital, it was so much harder to actually, export all that into a computer and do any actual editing. Now, I mean, now you have amazing programs that just come with a computer, iMovie and things like that, but obviously not to your level. So, all right. So talk to us about the creative process. So you have Functional Fitness and Instaband, kind of your two big documentaries that you've made. Would you call those documentaries or docudramas? How would you refer to those?
I would call it a documentary. I think docudrama is kind of starting to be reserved more for like a documentary series.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, they are definitely, there's a lot of, I guess there's drama in most documentaries, so it definitely touches on that. But yeah, the first one focused on CrossFit. That's just kind of world I was in at that time. And I saw that there wasn't, my creative process, I guess what you're asking is how do I come up with the ideas to these?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. What's your creative process? How did you come up with those ideas?
Yeah. So kind of what I do is I reverse engineer from a potential audience. So what I do is I look and I see that there's a vacancy. There's a big passionate audience about this one thing.
Yeah.
And if I can find that, and the passion means that they talk about it all the time, they spend money on a lot of products with that, and it just becomes a lifestyle type thing for them.
It's CrossFit.
CrossFit, perfect, right?
Right.
And then the other side of that is that there's not a lot of stuff out already about it. And when I did Functional Fitness, there was one CrossFit movie at the time. Yeah. It was all about the CrossFit Games, but there was nothing just about the day-to-day CrossFitter. Yeah, so that's when I was like, boom. And so I literally just started shooting where I was going to the gym and filmed a few other places, but just really around this area. So that's what happened there. And that worked really well because people either hate it or love CrossFit. And if you get that, you've got to win, because most of the people, if they hate it that much, they're still going to watch it. So I got some really bad comments from some people on my YouTube post and things like that.
Yeah.
But I did really well with it. So, and then the same thing with Instaband. Well, Instaband came about because I had learned so much about this new way of filmmaking where these barriers are down. You actually I made this movie Functional Fitness all by myself with just a little camera and got it on Netflix. And I had to learn a lot about this new way of filmmaking with distribution and kind of building your brand. And I had a lot of knowledge from podcasts and books. So I was like, how can I turn this into a movie? And so I was originally going to do something on like filmmaking. One guy's a filmmaker, one person's a musician, and one person's maybe a comedian or a motivational speaker. They all do very similar things in how they promote themselves and whatnot. And then once we did our first day shoot with a musician, I instantly knew at that point it should just be all about music. To me, musicians, when we talk about this digital stream of there's no physical products, yeah, I dealt with that. I'm not making much on DVDs anymore, Right. They're like the best example of that. Plus, everybody loves music. Music documentaries is on my checklist, and you just get an opportunity to see all these different genres of music as well. So it was just a win for me on that. Plus, this was a topic that had not been explored whatsoever. It's the biggest change in the music industry since the music industry happened. And what I'm talking about is music streaming and an effect on the music artists now that nobody's buying these overly priced $20 CDs. How are they making their money? And so that really is all I knew at that point. And I don't like to know a lot about it when I go in, because that's part of the process for me, is discovery. And we have an idea, but then it becomes its own thing through the process. And one shoot leads to another that leads to this person. And that's our favorite part, honestly. I don't want to know what it is. I kind of want to figure it out or let the movie tell me what it is. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of how we do it. I mean, we're filming another documentary right now, and it was like, well, there's nothing about this right now. And of course, now with the pandemic, it affects any idea of any project you might have. So now that's a story in itself. Now we're like, okay, how do we make shows that not only can be filmed during the pandemic, but maybe that's a storyline element. So we lean into it, and that's pretty much how we do it, but the main thing, start out with your audience. Who are the people going to watch this? You don't have to appeal to everybody.
Right.
You just need to really make it for this one niche audience that you know are going to see it. And then if it appeals to a few more people after that, you've got to win.
Yeah. Let's talk about those two documentaries real quick for a second. Functional fitness first, and then Instaband. So with functional fitness, I think this is pretty cool. So you mixed into the documentary the proposal for marriage to your wife, Margie, right? Tell us about that. How did that happen? That it ended up part of the movie, so to speak.
Sure. So I'm very much, there's not much of a dividing line between my work and my personal life.
Right.
Both of my children, I can connect to projects, you know? And so functional fitness was no different. I met my wife, Margie, while I was filming the movie. If it wasn't for the movie, I would have never met her. So the last day of filming, we were filming at our big opening at our CrossFit box. And I was going to give a speech to everyone who was in the movie. Hey, thanks guys. This has been a wonderful process. Last day shooting type of thing. So I used that as my catalyst to propose to Margie. Because all these people in the movie, these people were all at our wedding.
Right.
And I think, so if you watch Functional Fitness, which is on Amazon Prime right now, so you can watch it for free. Even if you don't watch the whole movie, definitely skip to the end, past the credits, and you'll see me propose to Margie, and you'll see even a clip of us walking down the aisle. I don't know. Are you in there back in the back anywhere? Have you seen that?
I don't know.
Did you know that? Did you know that it's at the end of the credits?
Yeah, no, I didn't know it was there. No.
Yeah. So it's I asked the distributor. They were like, hey, it's your movie. You can do whatever you want. I was like, okay. So I dedicated the movie to Margie, and then I showed the proposal, and it cuts straight to us walking down the aisle.
That's so cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was the best part of that movie for me. That movie changed my life forever.
Yeah,
And I even did a behind the scenes on the movie, and I talk about it quite a bit. So I'll send you that.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So all right. So that's functional fitness. Then Instaband has some really unique elements in it. It seems like that. It's kind of like the do-it-yourself world that we live in now, where the middleman is disappearing in a lot of ways. As an author myself, like I see it a lot in the publishing industry, where you don't really need a publisher like you used to. You used to need a publisher in order to get your book out there. Nowadays, because of the internet, you can get it out there right away. The music industry has also radically changed. Like you were talking about, you don't go to Specs or wherever like we used to go buy your CD. Now, it's all going to be automatic downloads and right there on your fingertips on Spotify or whatever on YouTube. And so it obviously changed everything. So that's kind of what your documentary is about, as I understand it. So talk about that and what was like a big takeaway that you had from Instaband and kind of what you learned, looking behind the scenes.
Yeah, so that is one of the biggest things that I don't know if today's youth really understand the opportunities. And, every generation says that. Our parents said it to us.
Right.
But to me, because you and I didn't have the internet when we were super young.
Yeah.
The internet and these gatekeepers there's no gatekeepers right now.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you can just put your stuff out there, go on YouTube. You'll see everybody's putting their content out. But there's a flip side to that coin, and that is the struggle we all have. I have it with promoting my movie. Is yes, you can put all these things out, but so can everybody else. So we're dealing with a massive amount of oversaturation of content in all areas, in music, in movies, in television shows, in any sort of media. Except for maybe magazines. I don't know how many people are still reading those, but yeah, that's the tough part. Is how do you rise to the top? How do you cut through all that noise? Yeah. And now in the pandemic, it's even worse because now everybody is at home, or a lot more people are at home, and they're all on TikTok and all on all these, this is something that I've interviewed the music artists post movie about the pandemic. One of the big things they said is now it's tougher for them because everybody's at home working, and they're not only competing with other artists, but they're competing with grandma who just staying in the kitchen, who got more views than them because it's cute and there's a dog or whatever, Right. So yeah, that's tough. And I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. And there's always a new platform. And so you just have to have to know that you are constantly going to be adapting. You're going to constantly be learning some new thing.
Yeah.
And this isn't like hey, this is what I do and this is how I'm going to do things. If you're promoting yourself, you have to adapt and you have to be with the times, because these people who jump on these new platforms and really get in it before everybody else gets in it, they're the ones that are killing it, you know?
It almost seems like, you know, when you and I were younger, we would joke about people who were one-hit wonders, right? There's all these people that had one big hit, you never heard of them ever again. Nowadays, it almost seems like that's the norm, because you can get the one-hit wonder. It seems like it's almost impossible to stay at top once you get there, because it's so saturated, like you said. Everybody's out there and everybody's putting it out and everybody's got a great song or a great whatever. And so it's really, seems to me as an outsider, like it's really difficult to stay on top. And there's going to be more one-hit wonders than ever because of that. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, the thing is, you know, well, like on the side of the music industry, everything has changed. Like you and I, when's the last time you had a conversation with somebody about this new album? Like nobody even talks about an album. And you know why? Because they're not coming out near as much. The closest thing, and this is something we discovered through the movie, the closest thing you get to that from a music artist is called the EP, which is like 3 to 5 songs, not a full album, 3 to 5. And you know what? That EP is after. So this is like kind of how most music artists do now, is to keep that interest. And you say like, stay on top. You have to have your stuff all lined up so you can release a song, let that ride. Before it quite dies down, you jump in another song, and you try to overlap them in a way that you're keeping people's interest while you're communicating with your fans and doing all this stuff. And then after you have like 5 songs, then you're like, hey, I have an EP out and there's one more new song on it. You know, they're constantly having to do this.
Yeah.
It's almost like the music equivalent of muscle confusion. You know, you have to just constantly if you do a formula or if you do a pattern, it's just not going to work.
Right.
Because they're just algorithms and people, it doesn't fly, you know?
Yeah.
So it's interesting, you know, with these artists that I interviewed, they're all kind of like what you would call middle tier artists. Yeah. And we did that because these are the people that are really kind of doing it and they're making a living, a lot of them, but they're not getting rich. But they're in the weeds. They're doing all this stuff themselves. They're not dealing with, oh, this person handles my social media and I've got, you know, they've got a team.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like even in the pandemic, there are no teams. You are the team because, you know, as everything, you've got to cut costs, you got to cut people. So it's the biggest hustle right now for I mean, I guess for almost everybody right now, but musicians, they're really having a hard time right now finding their place, and music venues are closing down. So yeah, it's tough. And I do think that this pandemic, I don't think the music industry is ever going to be the same. I don't think the film industry is going to ever be the same. But for us, from our standpoint, that sounds really doom and gloom. But in my opinion, and from what I've seen, and you look at trends, some of the biggest innovations and biggest new things come out of the biggest big downwards in our society. I mean, I don't think that there is a coincidence that Netflix started to get really big when we dealt with the big depression of 2008. Yeah. And that time when everybody, all the money and all the houses and all that, and then this little guy Netflix comes in, just like blows up. It was new technology. It was new ability to watch things at home. People want to stay more at home because they don't have money. There's going to be a new thing, I think, for all these things. You know, I think the interesting part is some of the innovations that are coming out of something like this. And I think we're seeing that in all areas of career paths or whatnot.
Well, that's the old saying that's out there, is that crisis is the cradle of innovation. Yeah. And you hear people say that because it's true. In the middle of crisis, there's some people that are going to die off, and some innovations of the past that will die off. And then there's others that are going to come right behind it. And I agree with you. I've been saying for actually probably 4 or 5 months, as I'm trying to project and see where the future is going to look, that I think movie theaters are one of the things that are going to radically shift, because you're going to have more, video on demand, VOD, coming our way. And once again, as the middleman in America kind of disappears, there's no reason that these Hollywood people can't send it directly to your house. And movie theaters may not completely disappear, but you could rent the movie at your house for $20 and save a lot more than those high prices of going to the theater, make your own popcorn, And then in my opinion, I think theaters are going to end up becoming more about an experience, which they already are now, but even
Yeah, that's for me what it is. Yeah.
yeah, more about dinner and all that, where the theater mixes it all together, and it's not just a movie; it's all of the experience of what's happening around you. And then they continue to go up in price too, but you almost end up with the traditional movie theater that you and I grew up going to. I mean, to me, it'll be kind of like drive-in theaters. Like they'll still be there, but it won't be the norm necessarily. So.
Well, that's a great example there. I mean, listen, I've been following the slow demise of the drive-in theater for years. I've seen some really good documentaries on it. I'm a big fan of the history of a drive-in theater, and now they are exploding.
Right.
And they're doing concerts there. One of the artists that is Paul McDonald that's in the movie, he did a concert at a drive-in theater, and instead of applause, people are honking.
Right.
So, I mean, for us going into this pandemic, I went from the best year financially I've ever had and best achievements in movies and all this kind of stuff that I've ever had in my career to the worst that I've ever had, like as far as financially, like great, nothing. So our goal is like, I told my wife that our goal with all the stuff we're working on and just trying to stay busy and trying to bring out new projects is I want to come out of this greater as far as we're talking career, but also in our personal life, than I was going into it, like financially, we're not doing near as good this year, but me and my wife have an amazing relationship and has improved greatly because I'm not traveling all the time and we really worked on our relationship. So I think you just got to like lean into the opportunities and the things that are available and not focus on the things that you can't do, Yeah, that's how we've looked at it. That's why we're making a lot of documentaries now that kind of not focus or are greatly affected by the pandemic, because now we don't have to kind of stray away from it. We're leaning into it.
Mm-hmm. All right, let me ask you a tough one. Apart from your proposal to Margie, what's your favorite moment during your documentary process with, dealing with a lot of different people, a lot of different stories? Do you have like a moment that you look back on? And I know that's a tough one to put you on the spot with. I didn't tell you that one before, but a moment that you're like, wow, this was something special that I just got to witness and be a part of.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll give you two, and one deals with production and one deals with editing. Because those are two flip sides to the coin that I enjoy immensely, and they're completely different for me, but these feelings are similar. So, and Margie and I deal with this quite a bit. We always talk right after a shoot. And so every once in a while you go in there and you're filming something or you're filming an interview and you don't have any idea what's going to happen, and something magical happens. Something happens that kind of steers the ship a little bit this way, and now the movie's becoming something different that we didn't even anticipate. That feeling is amazing, and that's why I like documentary. I don't like having a script. I don't like I don't want to know what happens. So that discovery process, and then I think on the flip side of that is when I do my first couple of edits on a scene, usually kind of earlier in on the editing process, and I fall into a scene that I'm like, wow, and I get the chills when I watch it back. Or if it's an emotional part and it actually makes me tear up. For me to tear up a little bit on my own work, it happens very seldom, but it does happen, and it happens almost on every movie project at least once. It definitely happened a few times on Functional Fitness. So those two ones, and I think it all comes to, oh, wow, I just created something and I felt like I wasn't necessarily driving the whole time. It just kind of came together. And now, like in the edit, it's like when I watch it back and I feel like I'm watching something I haven't, even though I worked on it all day, I watch it back and I'm like, oh, I haven't seen this before. I'm watching somebody else's work. And that's exciting to me. That's what keeps me going.
That's beautiful, man. That's the beauty of creating something.
Yeah.
So if people want to get a hold of you or see more of your work, see Instagram, Functional Fitness, or any of the other things that you've done, what's the best way for them to do that?
Sure. So my handle, I think on all platforms, is Bob Rose TV. There's a few Bob Roses out there. But for Instagram, if you want to watch Functional Fitness, it's been out for a while. It's on Amazon Prime. Look it up. If you own it, it's free to watch. And Instaban, it came out this summer. It's on digital rental and purchase. And you can get it. The main two are your Amazon Prime. I mean, you actually can order Blu-ray on Amazon if you like physical media. I have one. and iTunes. Those are the two main. But anywhere you might rent or buy a digital film, you can get it. You know, Fandango, Vudu, Xbox, wherever. And the handle for Instaband is Instaband Movie, and that's on all social platforms. And we are kind of gearing up to do an Instaband series. So this Instaband thing is going to be an ongoing thing. Yeah. We're really trying to build an intellectual property with it, and something that can really kind of live past this one movie. So that's if you're into music, you like music documentaries, anything like that, then, you know, give us a follow and you'll see all this new stuff we have coming out.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Love it. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us. I think there is truly something beautiful out of the creation process, where you take something and you tell a story and you make something beautiful. And so thanks, Bob, for being a part of making the world a better place and creating the future. And thank you for being on this podcast with us today.
Thank you appreciate the time, man. I've done a ton of interviews on this press tour. This is one of the most special ones to me, because I mean, I don't know if your audience knows, but to have the person who married me and my wife give me an interview about a movie, it's an awesome experience. So thanks for having me on.
Well, you do a great job, man. And I hope lots of people watch your work, and I hope the work that you do in the future is even better and continues to progress.
Awesome. Thank you, man.
The whole premise of this movie is, how can CrossFit change your life? How has CrossFit changed the lives of these people in the movie? Well, it came back to me because CrossFit has changed my life forever. I met my wife in like the third or fourth day of filming. I met her at one of the shoots, and we dated throughout the process. The last day of filming, I actually proposed to her at the gym. Last scene, cut the cameras, make a speech to the whole crew and cast, and then I proposed to my wife there. In the place that brought us together and amongst all our friends. Will you make me the happiest man in the world? Will you marry me? And we're married now, and gosh, I think half the wedding was CrossFitters, so. CrossFit has changed my life forever.
I hope you enjoyed this conversation today, and I especially hope it added value to you. If you enjoyed it, would you do me a favor and give us a 5-star rating on your podcast provider? It really helps to get the word out. And of course, if you share this content with your friends, that would be great too. And until next time, I hope you continue creating a better future. I look forward to being with you again soon.